Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're having a wonderful evening. Welcome to another Monday conversation with Itwala Leadership Conversations. And today we are in for a wonderful conversation. We are going to be talking about leadership in the context of the family. So let's welcome our ambassador of Itwala Europe, JD Modede. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, good evening. I was already just smiling and smiling there.
It's one of those topics you just have to keep
Be-
smiling, isn't it? And keep
because of
nodding.
this your plan. This your plan. You have a game plan here. By the way, good evening to all our viewers, our associates, all our friends that will be connecting here tonight. We welcome you all again. It's such a great honor to be in your space tonight. Know that, let me first declare, let me give you a non, what do you call it now? Um, uh, I'm going to put up my hands. I've got nothing to do with this. Know that those guys there, I've got everything to do with it. I'm just going with a lead tonight. That's it. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, good evening, guys. So, before we start our conversation, we just kindly ask you to share, like, subscribe to this channel if you've not subscribed yet, and press that notification button so you are notified every time we are live every Monday. You will get the notification that we are on. And tonight we're going to be talking about leadership in the family. What does leadership in the family look like? Is there a leader in the family? Should there be a leader in the family? Who is the leader in the family? And we are joined with we are joined tonight with my husband, wonderful husband, who will soon be 10 years, still alive for this conversation. Um, so yeah, do like and share and get involved in the conversation as well. Would want to hear your thoughts on your experience and what you think should be the correct leadership within the family. So yes, we're going to ask Pastor JD. Ambassador JD to start us off because he's the one that's been married the longest. I mean, you've been married now, how long? 26 years? Is it 25,
No,
26?
man. 2023.
23. So it will be interesting to know, who's been leading in the marriage, in the family.
That's I was my thoughts this morning, when I saw all your communique was the fact that, this is exactly what we're getting because whatever happens in that family unit, that's what we get in our community, that's what we get, in our world, in our government, everywhere. It
Yeah.
starts within that first institute or institution called marriage. And you see, that is where our society, that's one unit that really is supposed to sustain our society. So if we get it wrong, if we get it wrong from there, we get it all wrong. And
Mhm.
if we can only just plug into the original intent of the creator, from there, you will find out it has a way of reflecting all through everything and every sphere of life.
Yeah.
Because when the creator or a manufacturer puts in something, everything is designed with a purpose. In fact, without a purpose, you can't have a design. So there's a purpose that actually made the design necessary. So when we begin to talk about leadership within the context of the family, you find out that there's a reason for it. So is there or should there be or is there really a leader in the home? Okay,
And
maybe
who
we
is it?
throw
Who is it?
Maybe we just throw it in the air for starters and say, please send in your comments. If you have any comments, please you just send it there. Or should there not be a leader in the house? Maybe we should just vote in and out leaders. I've seen now. Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna just start from here. Now I begin to see some trends right now whereby look in some families right now, they vote. Whatever they want to do, they take a vote.
Yeah.
And the only thing I've seen around that, which really puts democratic system in the real gives us a problem with this is the fact that, hey, you might be voted out, either you're the father or you're the mother. If you're tired of your government, we vote you out and we vote somebody else in. which really shows to us that popularity, majority is not always right. That
Yeah.
is what we've come up with as a people.
Yeah.
As human beings, we came up with that idea. We came up with the idea of democrata. It's a man idea, not a God's idea. And I mean, it's done quite a lot of stuff for us, but I'm not sure it's going to be the solution to our problem. Okay, if we go to the root of this institution, especially if we read the creation story, and I'm going to take my context from the creation story. If you look at the creation story, and it's a lot of things sometimes, God does not tell you A, B, C, D, E, F, that it actually leads to our wisdom, but it gives us the guidance and the direction there to really work with, And, and the creation story said God created man. Now, if you don't understand that, you think he's talking about the gender. I discovered from research and studies that wasn't a gender that he created. He created a nature just like him, which is spirit nature, and now put it in two genders, which we now call the male and the female. Oh, okay, two models, you got
So someone is just asking you a question. It says, sir, you didn't answer the question.
I am going to the answer. So
I hear you, my sister. I'm waiting for it as well.
So if we now go there, if we go to the creation story, for you to answer, it's not a direct. If I just say yes, what does that mean? How do you know that? So I'm going to explain that. So we have these two models, but if you look at the creation story very well, one model was created first. When you study the story very well, it did not create both models at the same time. He made the male man. And when he made the male man, he made sure that he gave the male man all the information. There was nothing about the second model at all there. And that male was there, functioning, before he brought in the second model. Now, if you look at the story of the second model, in fact, I was reading something. Yeah. Hold on a second, let me find it. In the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 22, 23, it says, Then the Lord made a woman from the rib he had taken of the man, and he brought her to the man. Then the man said, This is now bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. Now, let me show you a few things there that will blow your mind. Number one, God did not have to create another man. It took the second model from the first one. Do you know what first means? When they say something is first, it doesn't, and this is where the confusion in our world is. It doesn't mean better. It doesn't mean superior. It means responsible for anything that will come after. That's why you're first.
No.
Okay, I'm trying to be calm now. We're having a leadership conversation. Okay. All right. Okay. Not the other things that we do. Okay. Now, the first one that was made took the lead, number one, and every other came from that one. In fact, every other one was hidden in that first one. And not only that, that first one named the second. Every time you name a thing, you become responsible for that thing.
No.
Because the name of the thing totally defines what that thing is. So you named it, and that is where the mailman really it's a setup. It was set up for this. And it wasn't his fault. He didn't choose this position. It's a position that creation and divinity has placed him in. So it's not a position to brag about. It's not a position that you laud, but that you understand the responsibility that ties into that role. So when you now begin to look at leadership within the family, it's something that you got to understand that it's a product of creation, not a product of appointment or you chose anything like that. Okay, so now that mailman also, if you now check the good book, the Bible, whatever name you call it, it also gives an order in that home. It says God, the head of Christ, Christ, the head of man, man, the head of the woman. So you see that there's an order in that creation, and the context of a family, of a marriage. That's where you have that order. Outside of that, both the male and the female gender operates in the very nature of God, and they operate as dominion, candidates. They are taking the lead in the war. When it now comes into the context of the family, you will now see that there's an instruction that goes with you when you're going into that structure. It says, wife, submit yourself to your own husband. Now, you don't submit nothing. You submit authority. The reason why a wife submits to a husband is in order for the man to be able to perform his role of leadership, because you cannot have two heads at the same time. Now, the two of you are heads, but the moment you come into the institution of a family of marriage, one authority willingly submits to the other. And it's not just a submission to nothing, it's a submission to that which is under the creative order. That means the man that is taking that lead, you need to make sure your lead is in place. Somebody was asking me that question the other day. Should a woman submit to anything and anyone? Because this is what they say: submit to your own husband. I beg to differ. It didn't say that. It says submit to your own husband as unto the Lord. What commands the followership of a woman to a man in a marriage is the fact that that man is being led.
That's good.
If you're not being led, I'm sorry, you can't take the lead. So there's a leader in a marriage, to answer your question, but that leader is subject to certain conditions that must be in place. So you command that followership. In fact, and you know something about followership. Followership enhances, helps your leadership as well. So you've got to make sure your disposition to your leadership is also in. So, and this is where the care must be taken, that sometimes we just want to lord it on people we don't understand why, or we just think that leadership is just abusing and subjecting people. That's not what it is. Leadership must be able to influence. It goes with influence. It goes with impact. Are you really functioning in that role to command my followership? Because I can choose not to follow you. Following you is a choice for me, but the fact that you've been given that role, you need to understand how to function in it. And that is my take on it. Now, I throw the rest to you.
Wow.
That is an amazing intro. Wow. Do you guys agree that there is a leader in the home and the leader is the man? Basically.
No,
look, it's not something that the man chose. It's a place that is been placed, and everything that it needs to really function there is been put in him. And that doesn't mean by default you just function as a leader. You will need to work that leadership. You need to work it really out. And also, when the wife comes in the context of the wife as well, the wife is also a helper to that man to be able to fulfill that role. You as a wife, you need to help bring the king out of your husband. And that is why a husband and wife, they need to really work very closely together, but also understand the function, understand that institution, and let the institution regulate, our activity generally.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah. But on the flip side, I wanted to ask you another question. What about situations where in a marriage setting you have, sometimes there are some women that have got the traits of leadership in everything, whether it's in business, but even in family, they are actually like the leaders. They're the ones that sees, where we're going, and then the husband probably is okay to take a back seat and be led by his wife. What are your thoughts on that? After what you just said about the order that has been placed by God?
Fantastic, fantastic question. Now, both a male and female are born leaders. We carry traits of every human is born a leader. Becoming a leader is another context that you got to really work and develop the leader in you. In the context of the family of the wife, the man by divinity has been placed there. It's like you trying to exchange a foundation with a roof. If you can't build your roof and sustain it without a foundation in place. And that is why when you begin to look at those words, in fact, when I began to study the word family, it means the father's house.
Yeah.
You know, it means that's what that word really means, family. That's a root word in Aramaic. It means the father's house. When you study the word husband, it means house bond. It is that thing that bonds the house together. And that is why, literally, if we get that unit wrong, you can predict the future of our nation. So, and you can see the chaos in our world today, that men are suffering a lot of defeat, destruction, disaster, and our world is in trouble. And we don't know how to fix it. It's so simple. We just go back to the family unit and put the order in place again. And we'll fix our society, we'll fix our community, we'll fix our nation, we'll fix even our governments. If we fix that one thing, because it's a divine order. Now, that doesn't take away that leadership that's in the woman now, that visionary person, that it doesn't take away all of that. But once in that, so you see a lot of women right now, if you see them in their careers, they're taking lead roles, and they come back into their home and they become a wife. Two different contexts. If you come as a CEO at work into your home as a CEO, your home is going to crash. And you function very well and be a success story on the job, and you'll be a disaster in the family. Because the order is a divine order.
Wow.
It's a divine order. You know, I had a woman speaking the other day in Nigeria. She's one of those lead voices in the women leadership space. She's actually the CEO of a financial institution, and she was talking about family, how important the role of a husband is, how significant, how vital the role of a husband should be in the family, over the wife, over the children, and everything they do. Now, she is a major voice in the community and in the financial world. But she goes in the context of, and she functions in that role based on that order.
Wow, that is amazing. I think coming from a perspective of being a woman, I think one of the things that women struggle with is because most women want to be led, and most women do want their husbands to wear the trousers. But when we come especially to the faith world, what most women find is the men think that because I pray and go to church, I'm automatically taking my leadership role. But then in the actual practical side of it, like men, I think they, especially in my generation, need to understand that there is some work we want to see you do in order for us to lead, to follow. You know, just going to church and praying is great, but that's not necessarily you leading me. That's not you, making decisions. And one of the things that we also understand is, even when God is leading you, he asks you, do you want to go this direction? Do you want to do this? And we see you say no sometimes, and God still loves you and accepts you. But we as women, when we say no, you're being rebellious, or you're being it's just I'm not agreeing with you right now. Just like how God sometimes takes time with you whilst you're he's getting you on his side. So how can men balance that in, not even just men, just the man and the woman? How can we balance between, I want to see practical things that you do, and even in you doing those practical things, don't just expect me to say yes every time you ask me of something, and don't take my no as rebellious, because I want you to treat me the way God treats you. I don't know if it's a question or a statement, but you get what I'm trying to say.
No. I catch. There's a conversation there that we need to have, so that people just don't think that this is just. Most of the time, people of faith are just religious junkies.
Mm.
That's the best way I can describe it. They're just religious junkies. We just jump into something and we just run with it without no understanding. So if you see something very critical, there's one statement I'll never forget. I keep on reading in the Bible. It says, "My people perish for the lack of knowledge." It's our ignorance, and it doesn't matter how religious you are. Look, that doesn't exempt you from ignorance. So we just do things ignorantly, and we don't study to actually get the principles of what that faith is really teaching us how to. And I like the way you put it, practicality of this. Practical. Don't just tell me I'm a believer. What? How do I know that? I can't say it. I can say it. And it's by their fruits, by our fruits that we are known. So first thing we got to understand is that when you see the first meal created, and it's got to be a template. That first meal had a place where it was dwelling. Oh my God! And you got to read my book on the meal. On the meal, man. I'm sharing this book right now. And you got to understand that meal had a disposition. One thing was that it wasn't somebody that was being dragged, like a lot of ladies are dragged. The guy they want to get married, they first drag him, to know the Lord, drag him to be in prayer, drag him and say he will change. No, the guy loved the presence of God. Now, that presence is not just the end, the beginning and the end. The guy understood the voice of his creator and it was fulfilling purpose. In fact, he didn't know he needed anything. No. Until God interrupted and said, "You need something." So it was fulfilling purpose. Now, the thing and this is where women get it wrong as well, because nobody ever taught them that this is what you should look for in a man, not his macho, not his good looks, not his car, all those things that you see in the physical. And also, this is where also the man gets it wrong as well, that the only thing that a man needs to go after is his purpose. What's your purpose? What's the intent? What's your reason for existence? And what's your vision for your life? Because what a woman must marry is a man's vision. You marry a vision, not a person, because that is your future. You got to be able to tell the future of your relationship right from the beginning. The moment you meet the man, you got to say, is this what I'm here to complement? Because you got to understand the purpose of the woman in the relationship is to complement, is to help. Now, you don't find out what you're trying to help. You just see a man and you just jump on his back and say, "This looks good," and it's taking you to nowhere. So what a woman should marry is vision and purpose, and what a man should use to woo a woman is his vision and purpose, because your presence is not looking any good. Your trousers is hanging all over the place. Your bank balance is not looking good. You can't even pay for our dinner right now. You don't have a place to live. But let me tell you something, a man that has a vision, that is a place of hope. And that is why leadership begins with vision and purpose. Leadership without vision, without purpose, is like starting a journey without knowing the destination. Your destination is what gives meaning to your journey. And marriage is a journey. But you got to know where are we going? Because that's exactly what this woman is going to bring. All her intellect, intuition, submit she a master's degree, PhD program has been paid for by her daddy, and she brings it to a joker that's going nowhere. That you just lost value.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, the ambassador, because I remember when I met my wife, because we have to be practical sometimes, so that people can understand. When I met my wife, I didn't have a job. I was about to be kicked out of my house. I was leaving, and a lot of things were going wrong, at that time. And she remember me telling her my vision, because I had sat under you for some time, and the only thing that really got her heart was my vision that I had. Wow. I told her, this is where I am, but this is where I want to go. And I asked her, do you want to go with me? If you want to go with me, I'm going to take you back to the altar, because I met her on the altar on Children's Day. So these are some of the things that, you know what, we have experienced that. We have walked that journey where I had to show her the vision to say, okay, this is where I feel God is taking me. Do you want to be part of the journey? So I think it's very crucial for us as leaders, as men as well, to actually have that clarity of vision. Because sometimes some women, like what she's saying, it could be coming from a place of frustration as to, you know what, I don't understand what my husband is doing. You might be working hard at your job, but it's not purpose that you can work hand in hand with your wife. So I think those are some of the things that needs teaching and training for the man to lead according to the scripture. So
and you know,
sorry, I was gonna say, in the fact that, like, for some of us, especially women in my generation, we are also having mentors. We are also having fathers like yourself who are teaching us to find our purpose, to find the meaning of our lives and what we want to do. And when we now get married, you're now telling us to put that under submission to someone else. So if I put my mission under submission to you, you're going to be taking me somewhere. Otherwise, I'm going to keep rolling the way I was rolling.
and that's just the way it is. You know, number one, if you got that kind of good teaching, you will be very careful who you're going to follow, who you want to yoke with, who you want to become one with, because you must be able to complement him. And the other guys you said no to, there's nothing wrong with that. They're okay. They're just not going the direction that you want to go. You're what you are, who you are, just not fit that particular destination. And this is where the frustration comes in, when somebody brings all of that and you're now following someone that's going nowhere. So they just look at it and say, nope, I'm going to go where I want to go, because the guy is just not taking the lead. And remember that both models have the leadership capacity inside of them, you know, so they can always walk anytime. And people don't get this as well, that sometimes the reason why you have this chaos and people going different directions is just because we do not understand how this institution functions. If we get the way it functions, we complement, and you see the thing, the practicality of it is that, look, it's you doing it the way the manufacturer wants it, that gives him the glory that all eyes will see and say, whoa. You want to find a man that is really locked into the purpose and the will of God and practicalizing it. It makes you attractive, even to your world. That's why visionary men are always attractive to the world. They're attractive to anybody that sees them. You just love them. You just want to follow them. Every Tom, Jake, and they just want to follow because you are in your space. It makes you attractive. So you want a guy that's going to be remaining attractive for you for life, even in spite of his, you know, his round cheeks, his pot belly, and everything that's now changed from over the years. You're going to overlook all of that because of that one thing. That captivates your heart. Vision.
Wow.
That's amazing. I think one of the things you used to teach was, you know what, vision and purpose always makes you attractive in your relationship. So I think, you know, just to embody that is such a beautiful thing, because that is what gives the woman the drive. Because I see that it's a lot of the times it's frustration as to there's nothing moving. We're not going where you wanted us to go. So
that's true. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about leadership in the family. We want to hear your thoughts. You know, are you the leader? If you're the man, are you the follower or the anyway, whatever you are in as a woman, we don't like that word. But one of the things that you mentioned, and I want to hear from both of you on this, you said the home is the father's house. And I know that the man is the father. You know, God made him the male, he's the father. But I have to be honest. I mean, ladies, if you're watching, be honest with me. Sometimes I'm not talking to my father. I don't want you to be my father. I don't want, you know, I mean, like, when we're on the bed, I'm not on bed with my father. So sometimes when I'm talking to you or when you're talking to me, I don't want you to come to me as my father, like, this is what's happening and this is what's happening. I'm like, no. So practically, again, how do we do it in the home when there are big decisions or even small decisions? How do we not just be in this fatherly role? I mean, even with children, sometimes these are your children. I'm not your child. You know. Because sometimes I have to tell my husband, like, I'm not your child. Can go and discipline your child and come back and speak to your lover. That's who I am right now in this moment. But on a real though, that's something that it could be cultural. I don't know. It could be, I don't know. But
okay, all right. Let's
practically so that homes survive, and work together as husband and wife.
let's get some insight in this one. As I told you before that the male man did not choose this function. It's divinity that chose it for him. And however, the male man, how do they now relate as helpers? They are supposed to be. Okay, that's another comment from Prof all the way from Africa there. Okay, we're gonna get to that as well. Now, listen to this. A male man functions in multiple areas. He is a multifunctional dimension spirit. Number one, yes, you got to understand that you're a lover, you're a husband, and you're also a father. Now let me tell you where the context of the father comes in. Number one, you were taken out of the male. Now, do you understand what a father is? A father is a source. A father is a sustainer. A father is a progenitor. Is one that produces the genes, the seed as well. So that is what makes you a father. And you got to understand the role of that father: sustains, protects, and looks after, cares for, teaches as well. If you understand the context of that creation story from the beginning, nothing was said to the female by the manufacturer. She got all that context from the male. So you got to be a teacher, you got to be a sustainer, you got to be a protector, and all of these things. Now, also, if you look at the way the family and the marriage started as well, you will see that in the context of marriage, a father comes and hands over a daughter. They always ask that question: who gives this woman to this man to marry? Then the father comes and brings her. This is my daughter. I've done all this work on her, so you continue from where I stopped. And he hands over our daughter to you. And the moment it does that, something happens. The identity of that female changes from the identity of one father to the other. That's one of the reasons why he's a father as well, because your identity, you carry the identity of that man. And that is a very, very important thing. So a man is going to understand his role as a father, where that comes in, the role as a lover, the role as a husband. That you're the one that bonds the house together, not the ones that break it. Some men just chicken out, they just leave. That's not leadership. Leaders don't leave. Leaders, they become the sacrifice. Leaders pay the price. Leaders stay. Leaders don't leave. So when you see a man leave his home, he's not a leader. He just destroyed. The leading husband bond things together. Irrespective of what is going on, what they're being challenged with, they don't leave. When the leader leaves, everything falls apart. Because the leader here is the foundation. Can you imagine the foundation give up? But the foundation is always working and you don't see it. But he's always working because he's there carrying the thing. So as a father, this is why the husband is a father as well, because look, he's responsible for you. Now, when we get in our bed space, lover, husband, do and perform, switch and perform their role. When we wake up in the morning, wife might choose, I'm not leaving this bed today. I am just tired. You don't throw tantrums. You look after all of us. That is what fathers do. Fathers always protect their children.
Oh yeah.
Fathers, as they become a sacrifice to generations yet unborn, so that the next generation can actually survive. Fathers build legacy. That the entire family can ride on. Fathers give their name, and that name is got to be worth something. Because look, I left my father's name and picked up your name. You better make that name good, or else I'm going to change my father's name. And that is why you see sometimes, and there's different arguments around this. Some people have, double barren name. Number one is it shows non-submission. Number two, it's like we have two fathers in this house. Now you have these two identities. We don't really know who you are, and we got to be very careful about that, because that identity changed the day you said I do to this man. So the man cannot run away from that fatherly role. He has that role to play, and it's very important to the wife because it protects you. It has a place whereby it protects you. It gives you an identity. It protects you. It teaches you. It becomes that. And once that role disappears, we don't have a family.
Yeah,
we have something that we got to kind of live with and continue to work with, but not really the order of divinity.
Wow.
That is interesting.
That's deep.
Still processing it.
That's why women, we don't really want to be men. I mean, we don't. Deep down, we don't want to be men.
Look, that is why you see, if you have let me show you why this is very important. If you have a very good father, biological father, the only context that you want to see in any man is the context of your father. That's the picture you'll be looking for. If you do not, from one reason or the other, and we have different experiences in life, and we don't choose them either. If you do not have a very, stable father, not very consistent, not really there, all the different mix, you find out that the moment a guy comes and shows you something close to what the father should have shown you, you're going to jump on board and run with it.
Yeah.
Because if you study scriptures right from the beginning, it said the desire of the wife will always be to the husband. So there's something a woman needs, because a woman just didn't come out by itself. And that is why the man needs God. A man needs, oh my God. Look, it's not a preacher. We're not trying to get you to go to church. You need God like you need water.
Yeah.
Or else the male man dysfunctions. And the moment you're able to make sure you nurture and you keep that relationship well, you're going to find out that, look, there's something about you that's going to be so attractive. And it's going to be nothing that you particularly do. It's just that disposition, that place that you placed yourself, that is nurturing and that is feeding that person that you are. So by default, your wife sees you and just says, husband, father, daddy. When the wives are still young, they still don't get this daddy thing. You grow a bit older now, then they just wake up and call you daddy. And I'm thinking, my wife calls me daddy, and I think, what do you want now? She wants something. Because now she wants to function as a daddy. Because there's a role, there's a particular function of a daddy. And the same way we have fathers of our nations, our forefathers, our founding fathers, they were leaders. The founding fathers came up with the ideas, with the vision, with the purpose of our nation, with all those things, and we keep on, referring back to them, because those things they were sacrificial to the birth of those nations. So keeping in line with the vision keeps us in track. But see, if they were never understood what fathers really is, even from context of family, they become father nations.
Wow. On something that you just mentioned here, can you hammer a little bit on how does a father sacrifice? Because you spoke about sacrificial. Can you expand on that? How do we have to do that? How can we lay down our lives for our family?
Well, that is let me. That is why, if you study the scripture, it says, husband. It says what? Love your wives. Love your wife. Love your wife as Christ loved the church. That means, how do I function? you got to study who this Christ is. It's not love. Love doesn't build family. That's what it's knowledge. You got to know, what did this Christ do? He did what? He died.
Yeah.
He laid his life down for who? His bride. You still don't get it, Osman? Can I say it again?
No, I get it. I'm processing
Not
it.
his children, not his family, where he was born, not his church,
I'm
not his
processing it.
business.
So your first assignment is to get to know and continue to know and knowing this Christ, because you got to function like him in your marriage. And what did this guy do? It was a sacrificial lamb. He died. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything wrong. In fact, he was sinless. He was totally sinless. But he was the one that died so that his bride can now be washed, cleansed, and molded back into this picture. So really, a man needs to get to the place whereby you die. You the kind of wife you really want, she doesn't exist. It exists in your head. So you got to now pay the sacrifice of now picking that raw material, whatever God gave you, whatever was displayed, whatever you chose, and now lay down your life to make it everything that you ever dreamed of. It's a sacrifice. You know, I got married, my priorities changed. My life changed. Just like what you were saying the other day as well. You know, I used to like to buy designer stuff for myself. I got married, I had to stop that. I used to be very, very selfish. Now I had to be the sacrificial lamb. You know, I'm not going to tell my wife, do something that I have not first done, then it just helps me. A lot of men are selfish. They keep everything to themselves at the expense of their family, of their spouse. And that's dangerous. That's not a sacrificial person. You know, they say, you go open the door, see who is there. No, you are the one that hold the dead. Go open the door and face the music so that your family can be protected.
Yes.
Anybody knocks on your door, nobody opens the door. You open the door. If you're going to take a bullet, take the bullet for the family.
Yeah.
Very, very important. A lot of men these days, they do not take the lead. The lead takes the bullet. That's why in leadership, when we begin to talk about vision is not always about you. It's always about every other person.
Yes.
Fatherhood, husbandhood is always about others, not about yourself.
Yeah.
It's about your family. And that is why it's called the Father's house, and you become responsible. Everything sits on the foundation. Do you know, you don't even ask the foundation, we're going to buy 3 freezers in this house, 1 fridge, 1 American fridge, 1 long African freezer, and all of that. We just bring it to the house and dump it on the foundation. Either we know the foundation can carry it or not, we dump it on there.
We're gonna buy it.
Bring it up. Yes, we're just going to buy it. You know, we're going to, and everything just works on the foundation, and nobody checks on that foundation. Nobody takes a picture of the foundation. We take a picture of the new walls, the new colors, the new drapes that we put in there, and the new carpet. And everything just covers the foundation. That's exactly where the mailman is. And that is what leadership is all about. Leadership is about service. It's about service. And the first place you serve is in your home.
Wow. One final question. I know there's a lot of fathers and men listening, and even wives as well. What is your advice to men that are celebrated outside their home, but they're not celebrated in their homes? Maybe because they don't function as husbands and as good fathers in the house, but outside they do a fantastic job in actually, rescuing other people, being there for other people, but they're not there for their own family. What is your advice on most men?
There's something I remember many years back. Our founding father, Dr. Miles Monroe, said, there's some things, you do the right thing or you do the good thing. They're 2 different things.
Wow.
That's good. That's good.
So a lot of times, we know how to do a lot of good things, but the good you're doing, is it the right thing?
Wow.
That's why they said there's no one that's really good. We think, yeah, that's a good thing. But look, if you leave the priority, that suffering, then you go play good outside, is just only you're being what scriptures call, an actor. An hypocrite.
Hypocrite. Yeah.
They just have different masks, different scenarios. Yeah. So you see some people and they will ask and said, sometimes ago, I think Reverend George Adegboye said, a man asked him and said, is my wife really a Christian? Because the woman is a deacon in the church. The man doesn't go to church. The man is at home. But the man doesn't believe the wife can be a Christian because of whatever goes on in their home. And this is where we got to be whole. We got to be whole. We got to be integrated into one person. That we're not one person in the context of this place, another person in that context. That's the way God is. That's why we say God is holy. And He said, "As our Father in heaven is holy, you must be holy." Holiness means oneness, integrated into one. You function. Whatever God says is what He is what He does.
Wow.
So He's holy. The same way it says you. So if you ain't doing it at home, whatever you're doing outside is just an act.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is why you're celebrated in one place and you're not celebrated in the other. So one of the things our mentor did to us was that he opened his life, he opened his home to us. We saw the way he was celebrated in his home. We're not just celebrating because it's under the light. A lot of people only celebrated under the light. When the lights are off, they're a totally different person. And that's the same thing that those kind of people go into the community, into businesses, into governments to do as well. They're 2-3 different people.
No.
And so it's just an act.
Wow.
It's just an act.
We're gonna try and end in 10 minutes. Let's just make it 1 hour. 5-10 minutes. So guys, if you've got a question you want to ask, please pause it now. We're gonna finish soon. So I really love what you're saying, because I think I'm an advocate for women that want to do it right, wives that want to do it right. And I truly believe that there are so many women that have grown up with fathers. Like I used to tell him, I grew up with a father, both spiritually, physically, biologically. So I was covered. So I'm coming to be covered. But one of the things that most women discover is once they get married, the man is not doing. And so they are literally fighting within themselves. Should I do nothing or should I do something? And in trying to do something, you're seen as you're being rebellious. You know that sometimes even the husband will quote the verse on them, but then they're not doing the verse. Like, so why are you expecting me to fulfill the verse when I'm not seeing it being fulfilled in you? So most women end up having that, what's the word? Conflict within themselves. Conflict within themselves to say, I want to move with my family. I want my family to be somewhere, to go somewhere. I would want to do it with my husband, but he's not doing. I don't want to lead, but he's not doing. So we end up going to a place whereby we seem like we want to wear the trousers, but really we don't want. So I've heard this statement said before that we have a lot of boys that are getting married. And so, sometimes we girls can be deceived thinking he's now a man, but when we get inside the home, we're like, but you're a boy.
You need mama.
You know what I mean?
You need your mama.
I mean, how do we deal with that? Like, because I think there's a lot of conversations that are needed with young men to grow up in that space of being a leader within the home.
Okay. Now, I don't know. What do you women want? You just said before that you didn't need a father. Now you don't want a boy as well.
No, we settled that. We don't want your father all the time. You mentioned it. When we're upstairs, perform your duties. When you're downstairs.
Okay, just joking. By the way, and life is full of many ups and downs. We have challenges. But there's something the Book of Wisdom, the very wise king says, King Solomon, and I think in the book of Proverbs 21 verse 1, it says, the heart of the king is in the hands of the Lord, and like rivers with water, it directs it to where it wishes. And this is where sometimes women need to be very, very wise as well, because you still have a direct connection with your maker, with your creator, to manufacturer. And one of the wisest thing any woman could do is learn how to win on your knees.
Mm. Mhm.
It's communication with headquarters,
Mm.
because headquarters holds the heart of this man. And that is why also you got to be very careful how you yoke yourself. You make sure you yoke yourself to someone that's connected there as well. Very important. You know, even if it's not connected, that's the work. But if it's connected, that works really quick. So rather than you argue, rather than you rebel, rather than you do all those things that they now begin to label you, go on your knees. That disposition is a winning disposition. And unfortunately, it's not a place that young ladies see their mothers or mentees or mentors, work from. So you need a role model that shows that to you, that this works. So that when you get in there, and you see that sometimes, when mothers are giving you counsel as a woman, they tell you, be patient, make sure you trust in God. And in marriage, people preach a whole lot of things sometimes. I just think it's just muddled up, and say, marriage is a place of you trust your husband, you trust. No. That's not, scriptures never said that anywhere. It said, trust no man, trust God. So you want this relationship, you got to trust God for it. Trust God for your spouse. And every time that is where you put your trust, you will learn to go on that knees rather than you fight the man, because that doesn't make it any better. You got to go to the place that can control, that can turn the whole situation around just like that. Is that place where things work suddenly. And that's the best advice I can give to a young lady. Look, a young lady that knows how to use her knees is a winning lady. And it shows your maturity in spite of your age. I've seen 14, 15, 16-year-old, young ladies, and this is part of the work that you are doing right now, teaching very young ladies to be in that context, knowing God very closely. Those things play out at a later stage.
That's
because
true.
they know that is the place of help, the place of that gets things to work. And that shows the leader that is in you as well.
Yeah, that's true. How do you get men to stay? Because you mentioned earlier that a good leader stays, and I know that there are good men out there. I mean, you're two of them, but I know that might be married to some hard-headed women that could be from background, could be from whatever has happened. But the point is, the man is good and he's doing well, but it's just not balancing with the woman. How does the man stay, like practically? What does he have to do in order to stay in that home until he sees the manifestation that he wants to see?
Just like me and your husband, we were doing another program. We're doing the program on marriage as well, and his desire was to understand the needs of a male and a female, especially in the context of marriage. And needs are relationship are sustained based on needs. One of the key things that will keep a man going, keep him stayed in spite of what his situation is like, in spite of wherever he is right now. Now, you might be the lawyer and you're functioning right. You just been appointed the chief judge of the federation, and husband doesn't have a job yet, struggling to get his degree and things like that. Do you know how you keep a man like that very okay, stable, and stay? It's called respect. A man needs respect like your plant needs water. What a man interprets as love is respect. You respect his role as a husband, as a father. Look, you might not have a good father, but you still respect the role of that your father. He's still your father. You might not necessarily like your father, but you still respect and honor that role of a father. They had quite a few options, they could have done, with you, which they didn't. Yeah, they might have just been in a situation that they don't know how they got there, but that doesn't mean that you dishonor or you disrespect them. When you disrespect the man, then the man has a few choices, or a few options he'll begin to process in his mind. One is that he might get violent, and still leave, or not do anything, and all that he wants to do is just man, I can't cope here.
Mm.
But you see, when you respect a man, it gives the man, it brings that king in that man out. It gives her that confidence. You know, there's this thing that is in the man, it's called ego. It's designed, it's in there. It can be used negatively and you can also use positively. Just the same way the woman has what that thing, the woman's also is the woman is also an emotional engine. You can abuse the emotions of a woman and you will suffer for it, you know, or you can appeal to that emotion. That is why you say, I'm leaving my father's house, I'm going with this man. Because something connected with that emotion and positively responded. The same thing with the ego of a man, the same thing with the emotion of a man. So that respect also helps to, you know, rub that ego there, that the man literally will sit down and is comfortable there because he knows that no matter what my situation is, I don't have a wife that rubs it in my face. In fact, you let him forget those things. You said, baby, everything's gonna be okay. Don't worry about it. You know. I know, you know, some women in their homes, and it's not mandatory. It's not said anywhere, but that's just the way they show their respect. You know, they bring all their income and bring it to a place whereby their husband. I know a guy that didn't work for years in England, and the wife puts all her income in their joint account together, and he manages it. And this is where leadership is. Leadership literally plans for the entire family, you know, and manages on behalf of everyone. To make sure everyone is looked after, irrespective of who brings it in. It's not who brings it in really that matter. It's what do we use it for? Where is this taking us to? How are we able to maximize this? And this is where people get it wrong. Everybody's holding something, but the man can't afford to do that. You've got to be a manager of resources on behalf of a family.
Wow.
So respect is that thing that keeps a man.
I like that point. Respect, I think it communicates a lot of things. It communicates safety for me personally. When there is respect, I feel safe in my home. When there is that respect, you know, I just feel at peace in my home. Because most men leave because they're not safe in their home emotionally, because this is how they get stressed and depressed, and then suicide rates are higher in men, as you know, just because of depression. Due to lack of respect in homes, that's why they leave. If there is no peace, a man is gone, because they need that we were talking about Delilah. You know how, you know, Solomon was on the lap of Delilah. You know, with those places can bring peace to a man. So this is why you know women need to respect their man so that they can stay.
Wow, amen. Let's end with the question that we asked before. How do they relate as helpers they are supposed to be? So how can leaders be helped? How can leaders in the home be helped? You know, especially when it comes to decision making, because sometimes you just make decision and go. Like, we want to help with the decision. We want to help you make the decision.
You know, when the man was there fulfilling purpose, it was God that looked at him and said, you need something. And he came up with a woman, you know. Number one, and I think we were sharing this sometimes ago somewhere. Look, the man is got to be doing something. I can't help you if you're doing nothing. I'm just going to go help myself. If I've tried and tried, what do you want to do? And you can't tell. And that's why the woman, before you even get on into that boat at all, you got to know, what is it this guy is doing? What am I going to be helping him with for the rest of my life? I need to know that. But people don't think about that. They just jump into the boat because he brought a rented car, a hired car, or a car that is still being paid for. You know, that is going to lose a job and lose a car at the same time. Then they're going to find themselves walking. You're only going to help him walk down, you know, the aisle somewhere. So men has got to be visionary. Because the moment you're visionary, the moment you're taking the lead, then you need a helper. No one is able to fulfill any vision by themselves. Every vision needs a helper. So the only way to help, or to be the help you're supposed to be, is to make sure that you marry a vision. End of story. Or else, women, you're going to get frustrated, you're going to get angry, and you know, you might try and just be patient for a long time, but you say stay in your husband, stay. After a while, you think this doesn't make sense, and it's true. People just say it doesn't make sense. because
Yeah.
some men cannot be helped. They're doing nothing. And that's the way it is. Yeah.
No. Amen.
I'm undone. I'm undone. Wow.
Wow, thank you so much for that. That is leadership in the home. Leadership in the home. There is a leader, and the leader can be helped if he's in alignment with his vision. So, ladies and gentlemen, do share, do like, do subscribe to the channel, and watch because we, like what he said earlier on, it is the home that will sustain our community at large and the nation at large. If the home is strong, everything else will be strong. This is
That's
Itwala Conversation, Leadership Conversations. Thank you and God bless you.